Okay, great. I'd like to call to order the January 24th ACSD board meeting. Thank you all for attending. Hey, Peter.
Hello.
Hey, Mayor. Let some folks unbundle. Why don't we start with introductions online first? Suzanne?
Suzanne Buck.
Jen?
Jen Newceder.
Lorraine?
Lorraine Morse.
Peter C., and then we'll go around.
Peter Conlon.
Barb Wilson?
Narragansett Valley Student Representative, Mary Heather Noble.
Mary Cullinane?
Peter Burrows, Superintendent.
Victoria Jetty?
Chip Malcolm.
Amy McGlashan. Mary Gill.
Will Hatch, Technology Director.
Great. And then, well, could you just read attendees?
Sure, we have Logan Price, MCTV, and Ruth Bernstein.
Great, thank you very much. As this time, as always, we will start with public comment. We have no one here. Make public comment. In person, is there anyone online that wishes to make a public comment? If so, and Suzanne, also let the record show that Betty is also here. Thank you. If that anyone would like to make a public comment at this time, please raise your Zoom hand. Super. With that, let's move on to recommendation to approve the minutes of January 3rd. Can I first get a motion to approve? First motion, Barbara, seconded by Mary Heather. Any comments, questions, or discussion? Victoria?
Yep. I just had one quick clarification, Suzanne. Under section E4, it was where Barb had been talking about using some of the surplus from last year to bring us under the threshold. And then you have me quoted as saying that we had no idea that we would be where we are now. I went back and listened, because that didn't sound quite right, to the recording. And in fact, I said we were fully aware that this would be the scenario, which was followed by Peter Burrows agreeing and saying that it was something we knew about and did not want to repeat. So if that could be corrected, I'd appreciate it.
That good, Suzanne?
I got it. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? Super. So with those changes, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Next up, ACSD bills.
Bills were read on the 17th of January. There was only one warrant to read. There were no payroll warrants for whatever reason, I'm not sure, but just a general fund warrant for $547,999.61. There were no problems that I could see at all, and I presume other members too. And I move that we approve paying the bills.
Can I get a second? Second by Victoria. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Next up, report of superintendent.
Great, thank you. I wanted to share an awesome video that was created. I got it yesterday or 2 days ago from the high school. This is a follow-up from some of the conversation we had when the high school came and presented in December. And they really wanted to reach out to students who are going through to help, not really just the board, but to help the community. So Emily and I, Emily Blistine, talked this morning about how we can maybe take this video, which is 12 minutes long, and take pieces of it and share it on social media and other places to help kind of bring people into the high school, not with a bunch of text, but with some video of students talking about their journey, what it's like, and the kinds of decisions they've made in terms of what the course offerings are. So we thought this would be really helpful just to show here first, and then we'll share this out and, as I said, kind of parse it out too. So Will has that queued up.
Great. Nargis, how you in it? Just curious.
She probably knows everyone in it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We get the lights or.
So I am not a full deployed candidate. I am just taking certificates right now. I'm taking just classes that mainly interest me.
So I have chosen to take the full IB diploma. I have chosen to take math, Spanish, and global politics as my 3 higher level classes, and biology, language and literature, and environmental systems and societies as my 3 standard level. I am doing English standard level, getting the certificate for that from high school, and then I did standard level certificate for biology. I'm also doing medical professions in the Career Center.
I chose being a mechanic or being that because I loved it ever since like a kid.
I chose to do the Career Center, med professions.
So I decided to do a mixture of standard level and higher level classes, and I wanted to be able to take all the science classes, which I've done now. And for right now, I'm pursuing 3 certificates, 2 HL and 1 SL.
For me, the community college part is a way for me to get college credits through the class, gain medical terminology and human biology. They are transfer credits that you need to get into most nursing programs. So they're offered to us for free in the program so that I can be prepared for classes I will take.
I am in the Human Services program in the Career Center here at Middlebury, and it's for learning about like childhood education and kind of like wanting to become a teacher and stuff like that. I also take an English course at my regular sending school at Middlebury, and I also take Theory of Knowledge. Those are 2 required graduation credits.
I think that gives me a good mixture of like the rigor that I wanted, but also not overdoing myself because I like to stay balanced with other outside of school activities like sports and stuff like that.
I had the opportunity to go to the hospital and shadow and all of those things.
I wanted a rigorous curriculum that would prepare me well for college.
This class is what I want to do when I get older. I really want to become a teacher.
This is going to set me up for high school, I think, because I'm taking the type of classes that I enjoy and that I think are things that I want to pursue more in college. What just doing certificates, what it's done for me is it's allowed me to take these higher level courses and especially in topics that I'm interested in, like French. Like I enjoy being challenged in that area. So it's been good for me and just like my learning experience to be challenged in those areas, but also to not have the full or the diploma program has been very liberating in the sense where I got to take that. I got to be that teacher assistant in that 1 class, in the French 1 class.
This medical profession in the Hanford Career Center is really like helping me towards that, towards seeing what I want to do in the future.
It's so fun. There's like no limit to what well, there is a limit, but it's a very high limit to what you can do with arts and electricity, and the sky's the limit.
I think it's probably fairly rare to hear from a student, but I have really enjoyed the extended essay and my internal assessments. They have been some of the highlights of my curriculum so far. I really enjoyed the opportunity to choose research subjects based on my personal interests. And it's kept me very engaged with my IAs and my
The highlights of my whole paper was
English and the biology. They're really preparing me for college. And then the Hannaford Career Center Medical Professions is, the highlights are shadowing the hospital. You get to shadow 13 different hospital physicians, and that is like really interesting. And just, it gives you a good view on what you want to do.
I think it's a great program. It's a great learning experience. There's a lot of, you can learn a lot of different things. You can go any different way to where you would want to work on, do body work on cars, anything. And it's just amazing. There's a lot of great people. It's a great community to be in.
And, you know, being able to get out there in the field and see things is another one for me, just because I never thought that at 17 I would be able to, you know, be in the hospital and see those things.
Again, definitely the flexibility within my classes. And I think it seems like kind of a scary thing because it is like academically challenging, but honestly, I think that has been the highlight, that I've like had so much success with it and been able to keep up with it and just discipline myself enough to be able to like complete the assignments that I have to do. And I think just being able to do a lot of science has definitely been my highlight because that's my favorite kind of thing. And honestly, my IAs, I've kind of enjoyed doing those, especially the bio one, because I got to like get really hands-on and like do a lot of fun stuff with that. Created microscope slides using onion root tips cells, so like a scallion and like the white roots, and I grew them at different levels of phosphorus, which I like researched the like proper amounts for fertilizer, and it was really cool because the onions, they grew in like a bell curve, so it was like the highest phosphorus for the lowest phosphorus, and it like grew like that. So that's kind of what I was expecting. And then when I calculated the mitosis, I made microscope slides and tried a bunch of different staining methods so I'd be able to see the nuclei of the cells. And I got to see which ones were in mitosis by like if they were condensing, and I got to calculate the mitotic index, like because I got to take pictures of the slides, and it was really cool because the growth that I saw like qualitatively matched the quantitative mitotic index. So it was really cool. I still have to finish writing it up, but the project was fun to do.
In the human services program, we get the opportunity to go to worksite placement, which is like a program or a center where the kids go, like a daycare, you could say. And I go to the Parent-Child Center here in Middlebury and Murdoch Acres. And I actually got to have a hands-on experience with kids and do what I'm learning.
Really suggest that, especially if you're, you know, going to choose the pathway of nursing, definitely make sure that you're prepared, because it is a difficult pursuit. You know, it's not a super big cakewalk.
I would say just do your research and talk to your guidance counselors as much as you can, even if you think that they're getting annoyed with you, just keep annoying them.
I would advise them to do some research and learn what they can about the IB program and the different pathways that MUHS offers, and to learn like what being a full BP student entirely entails. My advice for the 23rd students would probably be to take a career center class. It is really helpful, and take a class that you are like very passionate about, because it makes learning so much like easier and more fun, and it really is preparing you for what you want to do for the rest of your life.
I would say just go with whatever you think is going to be best for you to be able to balance your emotional health, social health, and like physical health, being able to participate in things. Because if school is like 100% your thing and that's what you want to focus on, I say the DP program is a great opportunity and can really prepare you for life outside of high school, especially if you're trying to go to a more rigorous college. But you don't necessarily need to do DP in order to be successful. And I think there's a lot of pressure with that. At least I felt that with a lot of my peers doing it. I was like, oh, I'm not going to be as successful as them, or I won't go to this school because I didn't do it. But I really didn't, it's not turning out to be that way. And I'm really thankful that I stuck with my gut and just kind of chose what was right for me. And I think just being able to have the individuality to decide what's right for you and not what's right for everyone around you is really important. And I would say just if you have an interest in something, just make sure that your pathway is able to conform to that interest and really help you succeed with that.
Like choosing whatever best for yourself, because I know when I was a 10th grader, I knew that I was not capable of doing the DP diploma, IB diploma, and I I was trying to pick something that would best fit my learning style, and definitely just kind of focus on what you think you can do and what's good for you, not maybe not what your friends are doing or whatever that is what you're thinking about. It's what is best for you. So definitely do that.
I definitely recommend the pathway that I took because I really enjoyed it. It gave me a lot of flexibility and I was able to try different things and learn what I was really interested in while also being able to take classes that are outside of my normal interest and kind of find how they interconnect. And I didn't have to take each class for 2 years. Didn't feel tied down. Like if something wasn't working for me, I was able to switch it up and try something new. So I think I definitely recommend this pathway if you want to do something that's academically challenging and rigorous, but also having the option to dial it back when you need to or amp it up if you need to. So you can really mix and match whatever classes you want with this, along with you're getting a graduation requirement. So I would definitely recommend this pathway.
So I think it's definitely a very flexible path that you can take that opens up a lot of opportunities to do other things that you might want to do or other classes you might want to take. I'm also taking a film studies class right now, which I would not have been able to take if I did the whole program, and I love that class. It's very, very fun. Yes, I would recommend just doing like certificates and like studying classes that you actually enjoy.
Yes, I definitely would recommend the DP co-program for other students who are academically motivated, like to be challenged, and like can genuinely find curiosity and interest, and would be able to gain things from taking harder classes. I think that for me it has been an overwhelmingly positive experience, and that while it is a lot to manage, I feel very well prepared for college.
I think taking the 2 DP classes that I am taking and the Hanford Career Center classes is a good balance of work.
The Hanford Career Center, it's really helped me in getting to the trade school, and this summer I got a thing for beta, and it'll be amazing. Everyone should do it.
I would recommend my pathway to other MHS students. I know that for me, it has opened up so many doorways.
Would 100% recommend my pathway that I took because I was really excited to take the Career Center class, and I spend half my day there, and the people in the Career Center are fantastic, and I felt like I've learned so much my 11th and 12th grade and wanting to do better in school because of it. So just 100% pick what's best for you because that's exactly what I did.
That's awesome. Absolutely wonderful. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, that's great.
It is great.
Are the students who, by and large, who take the CCD classes, are they in the dual enrollment program?
Yeah, they can take them. There's a connection between Hannaford and CCV as well. So there's also a connection, I think, with some of the Hannaford programs and CCV. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I'm happy to talk about anything there, or our resident expert here, who's an attendee of the school, probably has a lot more information than I do. Just to mention COVID and kind of an update there, since we saw each other 2 weeks ago, we have had another shift in guidance. So that was a pretty big deal, and spent lots and lots of time at the state level and here just trying to piece that together and figure it out and take care of everyone in the process. We had a good week last week and weren't sure what to expect. You see all the information that goes out, so you're aware of the numbers, you're aware of how we're responding. The guidance has us somewhere kind of in between pandemic and endemic, I think, in some ways. And so it feels transitional to me, I think, to a lot of people. You know, we're communicating about there was a student in these classrooms that was contagious. It's not really a close contact anymore. So it's a bit of a vagrant to know, like, if you're a student in one of these classes, there's not really a lot you're going to do differently. So I think as superintendents are working through this guidance and talking together, one of the big issues has been the availability of test kits and the number of students. When you look at in a high school, for example, you know, a student is in 4 or 5 classrooms, and the cafeteria, that's, you know, a quarter of the school. So the number of test kits is 2 for every vaccinated student and 5 for unvaccinated. And those are recommended, those are optional, right? Those aren't required. And there's no requirement for school districts to enforce anything at the school level. It's, you know, the state essentially is talking about pushing this away from school districts to the families and their providers. And so that's kind of how this second wave or this new guidance is, I think, built upon that kind of foundation of shifting away from schools trying to manage all the health and safety to it becoming part of the healthcare system as opposed to schools doing it. So yeah, I mean, things are, I think, going as well as they could. And I think compared to a lot of our neighbors, I think things are going really well.
Yeah. What's the percentage of daily attendance? Do you have any idea, like for the week? Is it?
It's not as, I think it's, I mean, on a bad day, it's like 15% out, but I think it's been more around 10.
Okay.
We haven't been as hit by attendance as we thought we would be.
Yeah, and staffing too, is that?
Staffing has been, you know, stretchy, but not, I would say we haven't hit new peaks that we haven't dealt with before.
In the meantime, the numbers are starting to go down.
They are, I know, I saw that, yeah.
How was test kit availability?
Other people were out in 2 days.
Yeah.
Other districts, we still have kits. So whether that's lower case counts or, I'm not sure, but yeah, we still are, we haven't run out yet.
And does it look like the supply will keep up? I mean, have you heard that, you know, whatever bumps were there have been smoothed over?
I haven't heard that. I've heard that people are clamoring for more kits.
Yeah.
And Kelly mentioned it was about a week turnaround to get new kits when you order them. So she's preemptively already ordered more. She ordered more at the beginning of last week when she was able to, just because she knew, okay, we'll probably go through this many. And then you probably saw that the Postal Service has the sign up too. So you know, I think honestly, by the time we figure all this out, the numbers will be down pretty far.
Right. I read a CNN article that mentioned Vermont leading the way in the country for how to best transition to endemic.
Yay.
Because we have such a high rate of vaccination.
You know, if you read the New York Times and look at the state graphs that they have on the COVID stuff.
Yeah.
It's almost, other than Maine and a few other places that haven't had a spike, the spike has occurred and now it's coming down, and it's happening even in those places which are at this point now sort of a few weeks behind New York City or whatever. It's a pretty amazing set of graphs. I mean, this morning, much more so than it had been because of the downward trend. So
Everybody's got it.
let's hope, you know, in another month here, we'll be saying all that was correct and we'll reach this endemic component of it in a better way. Especially a place like Vermont, which is so vaccinated.
Yeah. I mean, I think we have, it seems based on what we see, I think internationally and then in the US, we know where we're headed with Omicron. The work I think we need to do in, you know, statewide and in schools too is how are we going to respond? Let's not wait till the next variant comes.
Exactly.
To then all of a sudden respond again, like, wait, what do we do? And it felt in some ways with Omicron that that's what happened.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, I'll say it has been really, really nice to be able to test in school. I mean, I know, like, there have literally been people in my classes who like went down, took their test, came back up to class, and they called them, they're like, you have COVID. So they, got out of class. It was like, oh. But it's been really nice because I know it's kind of nerve-wracking, especially, I know there's not much you can do about it given the state's position kind of on contact tracing now. But it's been a bit nerve-wracking where there's like the portal and you kind of, it's a little like bingo, and you look at your classes, you're like, you like check off which ones have had COVID in them. And so that can just be, like a little bit stressful because especially because I think there's just been like an ingrained response, especially after like the past like 2 years, to like panic when you just like hear about COVID or hear about someone who's close to you getting COVID. And so I think there's just, I think everybody's really grateful to be able to test, but there's also just like a bit of anxiety about like the new rules because it feels so like different to everything we've done in the past 2 years. So it's like, are we really being careful now? Are we like, so just, I wanted to say that.
There. And the masks are gonna stay for now?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I haven't heard anything, that's gonna come from the state,
yeah, okay.
and they haven't brought that up again. It was supposed to be revisited mid-January, back in, I think, November. They said mid-January, that was before Omicron was even kind of in South Africa, I think. So, yeah, I for the foreseeable future, I see that.
Rochelle, that's her name, Rochelle Walensky, the head of CDC, was interviewed on Point last week about schools. And that's exactly what you're saying is what they're recommending. And she said the most important thing is the mitigation with masking remaining an important part of keeping kids safe.
And you can see what kind of turmoil is happening nationwide
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
In places like Virginia and.
Right.
Yeah, it's really interesting just to read how that is playing out everywhere.
I know. And we haven't had a lot of pullback on that so far.
No.
Good.
Places that said no masks and then Omicron hit and they tried to require a mask mandate again are the places that are just really struggling.
Yeah.
I think our consistency has been really helpful.
Right.
And it's, I think, a reason why we're doing well too.
Right.
Are winter sports on, with the only exception that audience members have to be in masks?
Yep.
Otherwise, it looks like normal winter sports.
And there was a lot, I mean, that's everything. There was a lot of talk about that and looking at, we've had a disconnect, I think, over the last 2 years when you look at what we've done in sports and what we allow in schools.
Yeah.
I mean, if we wanted to like take a moment and write down all the ecological things and the guidance.
There's no logic.
Quite a long list. Like, wait, we can do that, but we can't do that. I can go.
We eat in the cafeteria without, and then, exactly.
I can go hang out with my sister at the bowling alley, but I can't have her to my house.
Yeah.
Like all those disciplinary things. This is from last year, but, yeah, I mean, I think we're headed to a good kind of a solid ground and then building forward. I mean, my own feeling is I think we are closer to endemic than we realize. And
Is there anyone thinking about like what that means? Like I know, one of the things that I think has been apparent, and I get it, why, is that we've had entities, whether it be the state or districts or associations, really addressing the fire that's in the well. And I get that because this has been unprecedented, but we have an opportunity now, I think, to start thinking about today. Let's think about 2 months from now and put in systems or thoughts before we have to, rally. Is that happening at the superintendent level, or do you see it happening anywhere?
I don't see anyone no one to me yet has made the space for that.
Yeah.
I think we've been in such reactivity.
Hard.
And even the groups of people that are working together have different kinds of feelings about about it, but that's where I feel like after this, we go through this variant and we're on the other side of it, I think that's the opportunity to, and I don't know if this happens from the governor level, if it happens at the superintendent association level, if it happens with the legislature, you know, where that resides, but someone has to, I totally agree. I think someone has to kind of call out the definition almost and say, like, let's come together and decide like where are we and where we're going to go forward, not this like push pull, and it just feels very fractured.
But just remember that the original reasons for putting things in, even though weird at times, was to try to lower the curve, remember that? Because of overwhelming the healthcare system. And the healthcare system, if you overwhelm it, that doesn't just affect the person who's got COVID, it affects everybody else who's injured or sick. So if you do that, your whole society is going to be really fractured.
Yeah.
So we're not at that point right now, and it looks like we're getting better and we have control. We did flatten it, and for all the reasons that.
The hospitals are definitely struggling.
They're stressed.
Oh, I didn't say they weren't struggling, but struggling, if you've got 10 ambulances coming up, people are dying in the streets, okay?
Yeah.
That's a really different scenario than trying to deal with all the burnout and everything else from healthcare people trying to manage it, so it's.
Any comments or questions from folks online?
I wanted to say, and maybe fingers crossed, once we approach like the endemic kind of thing, I think it's maybe important, especially in schools, to kind of address like the past 2 years, because I feel like we kind of lose sight of the fact that it's like been a crisis for like 2 years now. And I think there's a lot of things that, you know, people my age have gone through that they shouldn't have because of COVID. And I think maybe because it's been hard to do that, because it's till now, it's just been such an ongoing crisis. So bringing that up in the moment is very kind of, you know, you don't want to upset people more than they have to be, but maybe once we just thinking about, once we approach the endemic kind of situation, how we want to like help people through or talk about what happened during COVID, because I know that's something that's really difficult to do in the moment, but thinking of the future, maybe we could build on in school systems.
Just as a quick example of that, in my class, I have freshmen, sophomores, and juniors, which means everyone, like that, even the juniors only had a semester of normal life. And like that's, anyway, it's all to say that there is no normal anymore, and that we're gonna have to reimagine it, I guess, or something. Anyway, thank you for that, Nargis.
Also, just one last thing, just to elevate on our to-do list or on, you know, school list, just like infusing a little joy into school experiences, you know, for all the social things that have been canceled over the past 2.5 years. I mean, these kids are really, you know, looking for, like, just an example on one of my kids' calendars, like the winter ball was on the calendar. And my older daughter was like, that's not happening. I said, it can't be happening. I'm sure it's not happening. Like, she was just in complete denial that would even be on the calendar anymore. And so things like that, like, we just need to remind ourselves, like, of course there's academic delay and social, but we need to prioritize the joyful things at school as well. It's just as important.
Is the winter ball on?
I don't know.
I hope so. It's always such a big deal.
I actually don't know. We have definitely softened a lot in terms of, you know, our stringent approach to all those things, so I wouldn't be surprised if it is, I'm not sure.
I'm sure something
Nargis might have.
will happen. I have no idea.
Nargis, report back to us 2 weeks, okay?
We try not to think
Yeah,
about it
exactly.
too much in case we jinx it,
Right.
you know?
It's usually around Valentine's Day, I remember.
Well, the last time I went was when I was a freshman.
Yeah.
So I don't know, you know,
Yeah,
it was a long time ago.
it's either end of January, mid-February.
Yeah.
I can ask and maybe I'll find out during this meeting.
Yeah.
Anything else, Peter?
That's it.
Any other questions or comments for Peter?
Yeah, I just had one other, little comment, about, so there was a notice that they're expecting families, so if you have, if your child gets COVID, they're now expecting families to reach out to close contact, of, the student and let them know. So instead of the school doing that, the family's responsibility to reach out to the close contact of the student.
Outside
That's just outside. Yeah, it's not in school.
Not in school?
No.
Because it
So that
didn't
would be, because
specify.
in schools we're already communicating the classroom, for the elementary, it's the classroom that they're in.
Okay, because they said, if your child, say, was sitting with someone at lunch or, any other in school, then it is the responsibility of the families to reach out to those close contacts.
I don't think so.
And that, I received an email, and,
Okay.
because my
I can
son
follow
was
up on that and see, yeah. Because we don't have close contacts anymore. I mean, that terminology is not. But yeah, I can check. Yeah.
Because I found out, to an extent, a little maybe impactful, like
Yeah.
expecting families to know.
Well, that would be a lot for you
Yeah.
to know who to contact. I totally agree.
Exactly.
Yeah. And someone may have worded the email like incorrectly too, so I can check on that as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know that.
Anybody else?
There is no winter ball.
Thank you.
I just asked.
A sweaty party. Come on. If it were in March, maybe, right? I'm sure they'll find a way.
After I gave us that hope, I was like.
Find a different ball. All right, anything else? All good?
I'm gonna go work on the winter ball now.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Peter at this time? Great. Next up, report of the board. Adopt policy D7 special education.
Yes, okay, so we presented it 2 weeks ago for people to review. This policy is required by the Agency of Education. And the policy that we presented is basically their VSBA's policy we just added Addison Central School District. But it is required to be completed by the end of this month, so. Anybody have any comments or questions? But it is definitely boilerplate from.
Definitely important.
Yep.
Any questions? No, Barb?
I was just gonna make a motion.
Oh, wait. Any questions? Okay, Barb,
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we approve it as written.
second by Amy. Suzanne? Any questions or comments on it? All those in favor, raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Great. So moved.
Can I just ask one question? Of
Yes,
all
sir.
of the policies, Mary, I don't expect you to know this particularly, but I'm just knowing where we're at. How many of the policies are this kind of a policy where it's a state mandated policy that is pretty boilerplate?
Most of the mandated ones, I think, are generally boilerplate, but when Perry was here, and he took over the policy committee, I think he kind of combined a couple of things so that we don't have as many policies, but it incorporates all the mandated requirements in our policy ones, in our board policies. We're several years behind reviewing our policies. So the committee's working really hard to try to push those along and get those ready for sometime in March and April to get caught up on all the policies that are delayed and behind. We are also looking at, there's also the policy on parent involvement for kids who are in special ed. And that's a policy that Caitlin and her team are working on with the state to make sure that we have the parents participating in a lot of the policy development. So that's hopefully will be presented to us sometime in early March. So I can't say specifically how many, but quite a few of the mandated ones are, boilerplate.
So about,
Maybe Peter knows more than
yeah,
that.
so about 30 are required.
Yeah.
In total that everyone has, then we have an additional, I think, 8 or so.
Right.
That we've added under recommended, or a few that aren't in recommended that we've added as well.
Okay.
And if you go onto the Vermont, the vtvsba.org and go to the
Under model policy.
under resources,
Yeah.
model policy manual, it really clearly shares like kind of what the required ones are, and when it was reviewed.
Right.
They did a lot of work 3 or 4 years ago and cleaned all this up, which has been helpful.
Right. We're also looking at a policy on material selections for the library and instructional materials for the classroom. And the library, there's a group that's working with the VSBA and the school librarians, and they're coming up with sort of a draft policy for us to look at that incorporates a lot of important information. Given the challenges that many school districts are getting now about what materials are in the classrooms, we want to make sure that it's done with their input, and so they're doing a really nice job working on that. That we hope to have ready towards the end of April, maybe May.
And one, just to combine other into that one, you're gonna start to work with regards to some type of policy or not policy, but procedure with regards to the response to public comment.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that.
Yeah, which was shared, it was shared with the board.
Shared it with the full board.
Feedback, and, so we have some revisions to make to that. And what I'm talking about specifically is the procedure, the draft procedure document for responding to public comment, mainly email public comments. So, I'm not sure that needs to be formally voted on. I think it probably is best housed in kind of a training manual for board members so that folks know kind of just our practices. So we have some revisions to make to that and can bring it again.
Just wanted to make sure we followed up on those.
Yeah, and the policies we're reviewing do include communicating with our constituents and public participation.
Great, awesome.
What Mary Heather's group is doing is sort of the procedure and how it will be done, the how-tos.
Great. All right. With that, I don't have any other brothers.
I have another brother.
Other brothers.
And it just kind of follows up on something. The other thing that the Communications and Engagement Committee has been working on was the recommendations with respect to recording meeting minutes. We just hope to, at a future board meeting, just bring forth our recommendations for the full board to just take a look at and discuss. And again, I don't know that it needs to be actionable, but, again, something that ultimately we would want to, put in a board training manual so that everyone understands how the minutes are recorded, who does it, what the expectations are, and kind of, what our standards are as a board for them. So perfect.
Barb? Yeah, and I think as bad as COVID has done, right, there's maybe some new best practices. So I think going forward, even after COVID, continuing to do some things like recording meetings, it just really makes it much nicer for the public when they can't necessarily, listen at this live, especially committee meetings, that kind of thing.
Right.
It helps real, like subbing, it's like that's a lot of committee meetings, and then I can pick and choose and go in and listen to some of the committee meetings. It's great.
Victoria. Some of you may have anticipated getting the facilities master plan last Friday, and noted that you didn't get it. It will be
in your inbox probably by this, end of this week, to give you a week to review the rough draft for discussion at our next meeting.
Well, the committee has already looked.
Yes, I'm sorry, the committee has, there is a rough draft in play, and we met last Thursday, and had a really productive meeting. And our hero of the day, Mary Heather, is taking all of the comments and additions and subtractions and getting them all in, and really has pulled the majority of weight in getting this document, which we think is going to be really great, together. But it's long and comprehensive and takes time to get onto paper. So we wanted to give her enough time, more than 2 days, to really incorporate the things we discussed at our last meeting.
And I think from a time, why we adjusted the agenda, giving her more time to do the tremendous amount of work that has been put into this document, and giving her more time to do that, and giving the board members time to read it.
Exactly. So the idea being that then you'll have a full week rather than a
So
weekend.
we thought that was important.
Thank you.
So get some popcorn. David, yeah.
Did you still have the services of the freelance writer that we had
Yes,
years
yes,
ago?
yes.
Didn't know if he moved to another
Yes.
country,
No,
or
we're
retired.
partnering on it.
A collaboration.
Yeah.
Great.
But I think we found that you had to be there a little bit.
Yeah, sure,
And so he's been great in sort of pointing out sort of the perspective of the public where we're missing things, but then to actually fill in the missing parts has taken Mary Heather.
Well, we just have to kind of do the ditch digging work of putting the content all together and kind of putting it in, sequence of events, and have some of those details where, I think it would have been really difficult for a writer to do that without having watched hours of meetings.
Yeah.
And so it just, it made sense to do it this way, and then he'll help us shape it. And so it's actually, I think it's been very good to have his eyes on it, because it reveals to us how anyone would view the material that we already have out there.
Great. So with that, yes.
Just one other question. Do we have an idea of when we'll be resuming meetings at the different schools? Seeing that we're allowing audience or participants or people to watch games, or to come into schools to watch sports games. I would think that we can resume meeting at the schools, but I don't know whether there's.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly consider it. I mean, I think what the initial thought about it, because we had sports happening in the fall too, and we decided that was the different spaces that were available in different schools, and how some were pretty tight, and we might not be able to bring many people in, but at the same time, I think, again, as I said earlier, I think we're looking at these kinds of things differently now. So I'd be open to the will of the board on that, if that's something the board wants to.
I think it's at the school level, right? Like really understanding the comfort level and the ability of each individual school space to support it, and whether or not that's conducive. And then
It's probably good to not do it this month just with the Omicron spike.
Right. Wait for this one to go.
But, as an example, we've persevered in person here.
Right.
And through the budget process, over at the high school a few times, so.
There's also a planning component to it. I mean, town meetings and all of that have had to make decisions looking ahead, even if they're hopeful that things will be better mentally and all the other ways how we think about it. But, it's not very long. When's town meeting? 6 weeks. So, I mean, it's, you can't plan too close on things because you don't know exactly, everybody's uncomfortable where it'll be.
And the other consideration, just to make sure that we check all the boxes, is with the tremendous amount of stress that the staff was under, to put another weight on them of saying, okay, now the school board's coming in at night to watch you, go through the sharing of information. That seemed a little bit onerous at the time, so we want to just make sure that that level of comfort had resumed as well.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. It just, this discussion made me wonder about whether or not the annual meeting will be in person for board members. I know there was a question about
yes,
that,
I think almost all districts warned those virtually just because we have no idea
yeah.
where we're gonna be in a month. That being said, I met with Governor Douglas this morning and we talked about the annual meeting and, what would it make sense to have the board together and have people. He said he preferred being in person with the board than having, virtual participation.
Yeah. That seems very reasonable.
That seems reasonable to me. I just wanted to see what the plan was.
Well,
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, taking the Zoom operation on the road to some of the schools could be a little challenging. And I haven't been to these spaces to set it up, because it's been a while since we've done any of that, but like, you really gotta have, good internet, which we do, but there might not necessarily be like an Ethernet drop, in the middle of the gym or whatever, so it's doable. Certainly,
another layer.
it's certainly a lot easier here, because like, for example, this device here isn't gonna work in a really big space. So I have to get the camera that I previously used and the desktop computer and set it up and stuff. So it's all doable.
Yeah, but I think we also balance-
Start labeling things by building.
Like before, previously, in the state of emergency, it was required. Some of the Zoom was required. It's no longer required. So we could also just have a regular meeting without Zoom.
when we do it local.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's pros and cons to both sides, right?
Yeah.
So we just have to weigh the benefit of each.
Yeah.
All right, great. Lots other.
Yeah, well, with the board meetings though, Middlebury Community TV is normally there. So we automatically get a recording. So maybe
If they're still doing that.
Yeah, what they've
Well,
been
maybe
doing is
that's what
tapping
we
into
could
our-
ask.
That's what I'm saying. If they're not tapping into ours, if they would
Yeah.
send people out to.
Yeah, if
Cornwall,
they
Shore.
would do that again, like they used to.
When we go away.
It's their choice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So someone's hand raised on that? Yeah, it looks like Lindsay's.
Lindsay?
Hi.
Hi.
Hello, everyone. I put my Zoom hand up a while back when we were talking about policy. Can I add something to that, or because we've moved on?
We need the Zoom hand to like come over and take on the entire.
know.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
You guys, the question about the policies, the VSBA website was mentioned, but I wanted to add that the ACSD website under school board, there's policies and procedures, and you can get more information there. And Mary has done a really wonderful job as far as organizing a pretty complex, system. And we do have an up-to-date spreadsheet that has all the details if somebody has a lot of detailed questions, but she's just, I'm really impressed with how she's pulled it all together. So that was about policy. And then I had one thing for other. I just wanted to know, and I might have missed it at the beginning, will we have an upcoming meeting with information about the Career Center?
We've requested Suzanne to do a little investigation from a policy perspective, what she's able to share. And if whatever she is able to share, we would do so in an executive session. So as soon as we hear back, We have made the inquiry, and as soon as we hear back, we'll let everybody know.
Great, thanks. And thank you for Zooming. I know it's an option, but it's just great to be able to participate. You don't have to worry about the whole close contact thing and then not being able to connect. So, and thanks to Will for taking the time, all the time to coordinate this, and people like Sharon at the central office where it's, there's a lot of work to make it possible. So thanks so much.
Great. All right, so with that, I think we need a motion to go into executive session.
I'll move that we go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter.
Great, second? Second by Betty. All in favor? We are now in executive session.